Elen is a love coach and a marriage and family therapist. And one of the things I really enjoy about connecting with Cami is that I think she really has some really interesting things to share, and obviously is a deep thinker. And I think what she'll share with you today will be really helpful, because we are going to be talking about 10 things to leave behind in 2020 to find the one in 2021, right?
Yes, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So I would ask you why you chose this topic, but I almost think that seems kind of obvious, right? It's kind of,
Well, yeah, Michelle, honestly, I really appreciate the opportunity to give this some thought, because when I knew that your summit was about finding the one in 2021, I thought, okay, well, what would really support people to do that? And I just thought, what are the top 10 things that people are going to have to leave in 2020? This has been, what a crazy year. There's a lot of other things we want to leave behind that we aren't necessarily going to be talking about, but there are things when it comes specifically to love and relationship that if we leave them behind, they're really going to be supportive of finding the one in 2021. So we're going to talk about those 10 things, and then also talk about what I'm going to call the antidote, so what you can start to expand a little more of in 2021 to be supportive of finding the one.
That sounds wonderful. Well, let's jump right in. What's number one?
All right, let's jump in. All right, so number one, and I'm sure you will agree with me on this one, that wasting time on the wrong man, the wrong relationship, I like to call it the blanket category of just the unavailable men. So commitment phobic, love avoidant, active addicts, narcissists, emotionally absent, partners who lack capacity for intimacy or authentic communication, relationships that don't go the distance. I'm sure you see this a lot with your clients.
Yeah.
With this one.
Yeah. And you know what? It's one that comes up so often. And I think it can be really challenging for women, because I think a lot of us are kind of in the mode where we kind of see things and see people from their potential rather than for who they really are. Right?
Yes.
And that can be a good thing in certain situations. It's not necessarily the best thing when it comes to dating, because being reality based about who someone is and what is really actually happening in a relationship, rather than what you think it could be, or what you hope it could be, or who you hope he could be, or how you think he could change, or how the relationship could change. Oh, that's so powerful. And yet it can be hard, right? It can be hard because we can see that potential, or we think we can see that potential. And I also think a lot of women get caught up in a fantasy.
For sure. Yes. And I'm going to mention a little bit of that in a little bit as well. But I agree with everything that you're saying with this. And I think that the antidote for 2021, so let's agree, swear off of unavailable men forever. And if this is a pattern for you, so a lot of times people will say, well, I don't know why I just keep attracting these unavailable men. So turn the finger towards yourself and ask yourself, all right, well, if this is a pattern for me, there must be some way that you are unavailable. And sometimes people, well, I'm not available. What do you mean? Well, if you're attracting unavailability, explore what is it that has you bringing that into your life and heal that. It could be, something having to do with something in your family of origin. It could be something that, you have a fear that you weren't aware of. It could be that there's something going on where you feel like, you're attracting people that are giving you a lot of space because you're trying to focus on your career and you feel like, well, I can't have a successful career and a relationship. So instead, I'm going to attract this unavailable man, but then it's just not giving you what you're wanting. So how are you attracting the unavailability? Once you figure that out and excavate what's going on, so that you can become more available for love and more available for the kind of partnership that you're deeply desiring.
Mm-hmm.
So that is number one.
Yeah, and you know what? This is so important what you're talking about. Not always the easiest thing to do when you say turn the finger back around and look
Yes.
within. But if we have patterns in relationships that are repeating, we are always a common denominator in that.
That's right.
Right?
Yes.
Ooh,
Wherever you go, there you are. Yes.
That brutal truth that we have to go,
Exactly. Yeah. And it's meant to be, it's not shaming or blaming, but just empowering. If something keeps happening, you're right. Common denominator is me. So what do I need to do to shift that? So let's move on to number two.
Number two.
So false beliefs. Let's leave those false beliefs in 2020. Usually coming under the category of somehow being not enough. No, not young enough, not thin enough, not smart enough. And, there are so many, and most of us have a cocktail of those beliefs that are informing the way that our love relationships are going, informing the way we're showing up inside of the relationships, the kind of people that we're choosing. They're just these lenses that we're wearing when we are going out to try and create possibilities for love. And so to shift this, it's really spending time, a lot of this is unconscious. So you really want to spend some time identifying what are those false core beliefs that have been keeping you stuck. It's important to identify them so that you can heal them and begin to align with the deeper truth of who you really are. We show up in ways that align with the beliefs. I like to think of it as almost like clothes. Like we're wearing these false beliefs. We put them on in the morning and we walk around through the world with them. And the good news is you can take them off.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to identify them first and start to then align with the beliefs that are really true. So if you get up and you're walking out into the world and you put on the clothes of I'm not good enough, and then you're trying to attract this amazing partner, it's just not going to be a match for that I'm not good enough belief, or I'm unlovable, or I'm not valuable, or I'm alone, or there's so many of them.
Right.
So you want to take those, identify them, take them off, and then what is really true about your enoughness and your value and your lovability and your worth. Because what happens is, unfortunately, a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if we walk around with these beliefs, we feel like, gosh, why does this keep happening to me? Now, the trick is, it's not happening to you. It's happening through you. If you're walking around with those beliefs, you're creating that self-fulfilling prophecy. And then you end up coming back to, oh, see, I knew I wasn't enough. Oh, I knew I wasn't valuable. Mm-hmm. Michelle, again, I'm sure you see a lot of this as well.
Absolutely. And we also create confirmation bias because the beliefs become so strong that, like you say, we keep creating and inviting that kind of experience into our lives because our thoughts are so incredibly powerful. And then we start being more and more determined that that belief that was false to begin with is actually reality. Right. But it's not until, like you said, it's not until we can take them off or identify what they are that we can be in choice about them. Then we can choose whether or not we're going to let that belief run the show.
Yes. Yes. And then the trick is, then being able to identify the ways when we talk about happening through you, how have you been showing up or not showing up that has been making that, evidence to support that false belief? And how could you start to show up in ways that would be more aligned with your enoughness, with your worth, with your value? And that's where the rubber meets the road, when things will really start to shift, when those two things are in alignment. So
absolutely.
Super important.
It's so important because we can be doing all of the quote unquote right things on the outside, but if we've got these limiting beliefs, these false beliefs going on, it's like they're going to be running the show.
Yes. Absolutely.
sabotaging us.
Yes. And number 3 kind of ties into that. And what number 3 is unprocessed trauma from a prior relationship or a breakup, or even from, family of origin. And so why is this a problem? So any relationship traumas, grief or loss, or family of origin, even things like neglect or abuse when you were a child, or traumatic experiences, or even accidents, anything that is traumatic, it can create in the brain these neural pathways that have you going into, so we've all heard about the bear in the woods, and that we all would go into either a fight response, a flight response, or a freeze response. That's just totally automatic.
Mm-hmm.
And so these traumas, if we don't heal them and process them and move them through our brain and our body, then what we're doing is we're like the bears in the woods, and we go into those automatic responses, because what happens is those old frozen parts are in our brain. So our rational, logical, conscious, aware part of us is right here in the frontal cortex part of the brain. When the traumas come up, this part of us just goes offline. It's like the computer shut off. And now all of a sudden we're in this part of the brain, the middle part of the brain, the emotional, the more limbic emotional, the survival part of the brain takes over, and the amygdala and the hippocampus. And the reason and logic goes away. And then all of a sudden you get this triggered response, because that frozen traumatic part thinks something in the present has just happened that reminds that frozen traumatized part of the past, and it thinks it's happening now.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of takes over. And I don't know, anyone listening has had this experience where something happens and you maybe have a really like a bigger kind of response than's really, appropriate for the situation. Like, oh, he didn't call, or said something that, who knows, it reminded you of something from the past. And then you have this big response. And so it's really important to be able to, if you have any of this, to be able to work with someone, a therapist or counselor, to help you to go in there and process and remove anything that's in the way, and to really start to literally like rewire those neural pathways. Totally possible to do. I do it all the time with my clients, move it through. And it goes beyond just talking about it, by the way. Mm-hmm. You want to get into the body and just help your system. Because the beautiful thing about us as human beings, we were built to be adaptable. We were built to move towards adaptability, to move towards change, but sometimes we get stuck. And so when this happens, working with somebody who can help you kind of get unstuck and help your brain and your body and your system do what it already wants to do, move towards resilience, move towards healing, move towards growth. And then you can see really big changes. So it ties into those limiting beliefs, but then also into these automatic, responses, to remove those so that you're now in an adaptive place, so that you can be resilient, that new level of inner safety, new automatic responses. Mindfulness can be super helpful with this. So any thoughts on this one, Michelle?
Well, just it's similar to the limiting beliefs and thoughts, in the sense that it can really block what is possible for you unless those past traumas are healed. And so It's really worth doing the work and giving yourself the gift of healing past traumas in whatever way is going to best support you. And I always believe, the wisest people, the smartest people, the most successful people are those who are able to recognize that they need support, that they need help.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. There's a joke out there that says you can come from one of two kind of families, either dysfunctional or really dysfunctional, right?
Yeah, that's so true.
Those are the two options. So, there's all kinds of flavors and ways that families have dysfunction, and certainly some of them are way more severe or significant than others. But the truth is, in a lot of ways, we all come from backgrounds where there are maybe disappointments, wounding, hurt,
Yes.
and abuse, or those kinds of things. And unless those things are dealt with and healed, they can get in the way and stop us, just like the limiting beliefs. They're similar in that way.
Yes, absolutely. Well said.
Yeah. So, and it's a gift that you can give yourself, because you deserve the quality of life that you can have. And even really, really difficult and painful things with the right support, people can just make, and you see this in your work, Cami, people can just make such transformation
Oh,
and
yeah.
have so much more joy and peace and happiness in
Absolutely.
their lives.
Yes, absolutely. It's absolutely true. And the thing about trauma too is that it's subjective.
Right.
So you could take two people who went through the same thing. One person would be fine, but the other person, for whatever reason, we're all unique, different, special people. And the other person felt it was a trauma. So, if you feel like something was traumatic to you, then listen to yourself and get some support and help yourself to heal.
Yeah, that's such a good point. It is subjective. And there's no shame around something that, someone else might not have been traumatized by, but if it's trauma for you, if it represents trauma for your life, then getting that healing and support can be a great
Yes.
gift to give yourself.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm glad you said shame. I didn't include that on the list, but let's leave that in 2020 as well.
All right. All right. We got a bonus one, a number 11.
Bonus number 11. Yeah.
Shame. All right.
Okay, we're going on to 4. I know you've seen this one, Michelle. So becoming exclusive or too serious, too fast, too soon, based on chemistry and attraction.
Mm-hmm.
This is a big one. And I hear all the time, well, there just wasn't enough chemistry. That's why I didn't date this person. Or talking about a relationship that just was not a sustaining relationship, or wasn't going to go the distance, or in some way was unfulfilling, but we have such great chemistry. So the thing about the chemistry, it's related to attachment style.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times, we can't get into all the ins and outs of that today, but there's the anxious attachment, the avoidant attachment, and the secure attachment. And the secure is the solid, consistent, stable, and the avoidant is the gap where you didn't get that. And then the anxious is the too much.
Right.
And that is influenced by our family of origin and what felt familiar to us in our family of origin. And a lot of times what happens with what we want to call chemistry is someone could be reminiscent of something, an attachment style. One of our primary caregivers is familiar, a familiar feeling. And we feel, we call it butterflies or that excitement. It could be your system kind of going, oh yeah, this is familiar. This is familiar. This feels like home.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be that you just called in an avoidant person and you're so excited and so, oh, everything's so great. This must be the one. And then you dive in so fast. And of course, then what happens, with dopamine and all the catecholamines and all the chemistry from getting involved sexually. And next thing you know, now you have a bond. You've bonded possibly to the wrong person.
Mm-hmm.
And then end up in this relationship for months or years. That's the wrong partner. And it all started with that chemistry and attachment. So I like to say, slow it down. And sometimes if you notice that red hot chemistry feeling, get curious about it. It might be a signal that this is not the right person for you. Mm-hmm. And don't be too quick to say no to somebody. So if we were having a scale of chemistry and attraction, so let's say the red hot's the 10, and then you have someone you met and they say is a 5. Well, maybe the 5 is, has good intentions, has a lot of integrity, is an interesting person, and there is some level of attraction there. I say, give it a chance.
Mhm.
Because over time, you're building a foundation of friendship and connection and solidity. That 5 can grow. It could be a 6, could be a 7, who knows? It could, even be more than that. But Michelle, I'd love you to weigh in here because I'm sure that you've seen this as well.
Yeah, yeah. So first of all, I think that that really intense chemistry can be so compelling. It can feel like the Holy Grail
Oh
because
God,
that's
yes.
what, like, that's the stuff like romantic movies are made of. You see each other from across the room, and there's just
Yes.
this instant attraction, and it can be especially compelling if you haven't felt that for a while. And it can be
Mhm.
really exciting. It's that, you actually have a physical response to it, the butterflies in the stomach, and
That's right.
like you can hardly breathe because you're so, this person takes your breath away. So it's exciting from that standpoint. And so it can feel almost irresistible. But I like to compare it like to fool's gold. So,
Yes.
it's like it looks like gold on the outside, but it's not that on the inside. And I also find that some of these relationships that start out that way, real hot and heavy
Mhm.
with the chemistry, it's like the raging forest fire of passion.
Oh
They
God,
tend to,
I'm not gonna say who, but there's a celebrity who recently was describing her relationship like that.
oh,
She left a marriage and is now dating someone, and that's how she described it. It just feels like a raging forest fire, and I was like, oh gosh, okay.
yeah,
We know what
exactly.
happens with fires.
Right. So what happens if it's a raging forest fire? A lot of times is it like burns out, leaves you lying there in the dust, smoke, and ashes, wondering what in the world happened. Like a lot of these things flame up and they flame out.
That's right.
And a lot of times you'll find yourself in a situation going, I don't even like this person. Like, who is this
That's
person?
right.
Like after the chemistry fog wears off, it's kind of like being in a fog,
Yes.
kind of like being where you're not seeing clearly, like you've just, got goggles on, fog goggles,
Yes.
the passion goggles. And then when the fog wears off, you're like, who is this person? And
Yes.
why am I with this person?
Yes. Yes.
And so it's almost always the wisest thing to be really aware in the beginning. This doesn't mean necessarily that you're trying to find something wrong, but you're going in with your eyes open,
Mhm.
taking your time to get to know who this person is on a level deeper than skin deep, to see if
Yeah.
this is someone that you really could be attracted to over the long run. Because one of the things I find for women is that for a woman not only to really fall in love, I mean, in true love with a man, but also especially to stay in love with him, she needs to respect who he is. When
Yes.
that respect goes away, the feelings of love go away too. For most women, that's just like if you lose respect for a man, you're not going to love him.
That's
But you
right.
can only respect someone who has the character qualities of someone that you can respect. And we can't see that when we have the fog of the passion goggles going.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Yeah. And I also want to say one more thing, which is try to date from secure. And the secure qualities, like I said, solid, consistent, connected, um, predictable, steady, and organically, moving forward. You can research more about secure attachment, but your attachment style can be changed. And with personal growth work, identifying what your attachment style is, and if you find, oh wait, I think I'm an anxious attached type person, or I'm an avoidant type person. Well, you can watch how you show up and start to show up more secure. And then you can also watch your partner as well. And then you can choose someone who is a more securely attached partner. And then that helps you to do the same. So,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yep.
that, yeah. So, and in line a little bit with what you were saying about the qualities and characteristics in a partner, and waking up one day and saying, oh my gosh, I don't even know if I like you or if we're compatible. So number 5 is not taking the time to really know yourself, who you are, and what it is that you need and desire in a partnership in order to feel fulfilled. And so what I think the antidote is for this is the vision for love. I think it is super important to figure out what is your vision for love. It goes beyond, tall, dark, and handsome.
Mhm.
It is really figuring out what is your vision for relationship, including very specific, do you see yourself married? Do you see yourself with children? Do you want a committed relationship? Do you want to live together? Do you want to live separately? I mean, everybody wants something different, but really getting clear on what that vision is. And then what are the qualities and characteristics that are happening not only in the relationship itself, but the qualities and characteristics in your partner. And remember, we're talking about turning the finger towards the self. So doing the same thing for yourself as well. What are the qualities and characteristics of you inside of that partnership? And I like to kind of think of this as your inner GPS for love.
Mhm.
It's a really great accountability tool because, to not fall into the pitfalls of what we just talked about. If you have, and I like people to write it down or type it out and to have it like their roadmap, so that, okay, this is my vision for relationship. These are the qualities and characteristics in my partner that I'm seeking. This is who I want to be inside of this relationship. And you can be those things in the present, by the way.
Right.
Embody those in the present. And then check in with this, inner GPS kind of roadmap. And as you're dating, you can check back in. And if you notice that the person that you're, drawn to and spending time with, like, oh, wait a minute. I said I wanted somebody who didn't drink excessively. I said I wanted someone who was really clear he wanted commitment. I said I really wanted someone who was responsible. Whatever those things are, kind, compassionate. This person isn't those things, so could be a really fine, person, but isn't going to be a match for what you committed to with your vision. And then the same for you. If there's things that you're not doing, ways that you're not showing up, that you really want to be committed to be being, then it kind of helps you. And again, the no shame, but it's helpful to go, oh, okay, well, if I keep doing all these things, I'm going to keep getting the same results. So now it's just a shift. All right. So tomorrow I'm going to do more about, more of this. And I think it's important when you do your vision for love to go really deep. What is it I want to express, experience, create, contribute, to do? You work with a coach to help you to go really, really deep into a vision, to really figure out what that looks like, use all the senses to help you to really get anchored into this vision.
You are speaking my language, girl.
Okay.
The women that have been in my community for very long know how important I think this is, because I think if you don't know what you're wanting or where you're going in very clear terms, it's a lot easier to take a lot of detours.
That's right.
Like if you have a vision, a clear vision, and you're willing to claim it, like there are women who are like almost reticent to say, well, I really would like to have marriage and I'd really like to have a family, or I'd really like to be in a committed relationship. And it's almost like there's a part of them that wonders if they can have that, or if they're going to be disappointed. And so it's almost like they're afraid to say it. But as clearly as you can define what it is that you want, that would make you happy, that would make you feel good, that would bring you joy, in specific and clear terms, the more likely you are to get that. And a key reason for that is what I said earlier. You're less likely to take the detours for a year here with this guy and 6 months with this guy, because you're clear. He could be a perfectly fine person, but you may not be aligned with what you want in terms of life and a relationship. Here's something I always say to people, Cami. I always say, here's where it gets a little tricky, because the wrong guy can still be a really nice, good guy.
Of course, yeah.
Right? But if he's not wanting the same things, or if he's not available
Not
to
a
be in a
match.
relationship with you in the way that you want to have a relationship, he can still be the wrong guy for you.
That's
But
right.
again, that comes back to what we were talking about earlier, where we can get caught up in the potential or the idea that
Right.
if only he wanted this,
Yes.
you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So important.
you're singing my tune with vision.
Okay, good. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, that might be number one, I think,
Mhm.
super important. So
And you know
good.
what? Here we are at the beginning of a new year. This is a perfect time to really refine your vision. Because here's another nuance to this that I think is worth mentioning before we move on, Cami. And that is, I think a lot of people believe that their vision is really clear. But like when you and I are talking to them and we're asking them what they really want, their answers can be a little wishy-washy. Like
Yes.
it's like, well, I think I kind of like, no, it's like, on a deep core level, if you could have anything you want, what would that look like? What would that feel like? In detail, describe that. And what do you really envision in terms of what would make you happy and what would bring you joy and what would make you fulfilled? And people don't go deep enough with that usually.
Yeah. And that's why I think it's really helpful to do it in the care of a coach or someone who can
Mhm.
really hold space with you and help you to go deep. So yeah, I love that. Um, and something that is also important and aligns with this is leaving behind, allowing fears and insecurities and false beliefs have you show up as less than the incredible, confident, high value woman that you are. So what I am being specific about here is radiance. And without radiance, you come across, as less confident, a little needy. And what I mean by radiance is being fully present in your body, fully present in your life. So we're talking about the vision. And this is about becoming a woman who knows with every fiber of her being that she is 100% committed to and 100% deserving of inspiring a great love in her life, of experiencing and cultivating a relationship that's based on mutuality and reciprocity with someone who truly sees and values, supports, and loves her. And that your worth also is not dependent on any externals or any man. So you can walk through the world knowing that your value is based on your own very existence. And you could be single, you don't have that person yet, but you're walking through the world knowing, I know I will have it. I know I do deserve it. I know it's coming. And that is radiance. You were talking about this, about believing, really believing. And I think that this is super important. So walking through life, believing that all of this is so, and that you will have it, and that you are a worthy woman. And there are radiance practices that you can do. Again, back to mindfulness, but really just embodying the truth of who you are, and that all that you want is possible. To say yes to knowing that. Michelle,
Yes.
what do you think about this idea of radiance?
Well, I love the word, first of all, because I think it's so powerful. And I think it really represents how you want to carry yourself, hold yourself in your mind, in your heart, from within. I think it comes from within.
Yeah.
And the radiant woman is going to stand out in a positive way with men, with women, with all people. And it doesn't matter her age. It doesn't matter her station in life. If she carries herself that way, where she has that inner knowing of who she is and that her value is intrinsic and it's not determined by what is or isn't happening with any man or anyone else out there. She is centered in that. Not only is it really powerful in terms of being really attractive and inspiring, but again, it helps her to stay on course because she's going to honor herself. She's going to be in tune enough with who she is and knowing her own value, that she's not going to be willing to get into situations where she's compromising her standards or boundaries in ways that make her
Yes.
feel uncomfortable. So
And
it's
that's so
powerful.
magnetic, what you're talking
Yes,
about.
it is.
And that's the woman that's okay to say to the perfectly, nice, lovely man, I'm sorry, but we're just not a match. I'm looking for blah, 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 blah. And you're a wonderful person. I wish you all the best. And he says, wow, she really knows what she wants.
Mhm.
I really respect that.
Mhm. Yeah, it makes you stand out in a positive way. And it feels good too, because you're being true to yourself, and you're holding your own value. You're not looking for someone else to give you that value or that validation that comes from the outside, which can be taken away at any time.
Yes.
You know that intrinsically, that you have that value as a woman. And yeah, this is another one. We're singing from the same choir book here today, Cami, because this is another one that I spend so much time with in my group programs and with my clients, talking about the importance of knowing your own value and honoring that, and then you show up in the world with that radiance. So
oh, love it.
yeah, so I'm like, you're giving me the goosebumps. I'm like,
I
oh
love
yeah,
it.
she's singing my song. This is wonderful.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so the next one, so all of the things that we've been talking about so far relate to skills and capacities and relationship skills. And so leaving behind in 2020, not showing up in dating and relationship with relationship skills. So really starting to look at, are there any areas where I need to maybe grow? Do I need to learn about practicing healthy boundaries? Do I need to learn what is a healthy need? Because we're always told like, no, you can't do that. That's too selfish. You can't, we get all these messages. So really starting to identify, well, what is a healthy need and how do I embody that? What is healthy communication? What does it look like to be able to say an authentic yes, an authentic no, or to be able to have difficult conversations and do it in a way where there's a win-win. Being able to master your own emotion regulation. Maybe you need some help mastering emotion regulation, being able to respond versus react in situations. So there's so many different kinds of skills in relationship. And that's another great reason to work with someone who can help you to learn where you might have some areas of growth that could help you to really show up in relationship. And the great thing that I love about dating is that it's a great place to practice.
Right.
So if in the past you have shown up and maybe you haven't honored your needs, well, you can practice. Okay, well, I wonder what it would look like in this situation if I honored my need. What would I say? And then practice doing it. I wonder what it would look like, in this situation, if I express something I don't normally express, so any thoughts on this one, Michelle?
Yeah, what I love about this one, Cami, is that it reminds us that these things are learnable skills. They are, if you feel like there's something that could be, could have a little polish on it or a little upgrade, you can have support, you can do things that can make a difference. And what I find a lot of times with my clients, and I'm sure you find this too, Cami, is that it's not like most people are out there doing everything wrong. It's just sometimes there are just little tweaks.
Yes.
Like we kind of work a lot of times with our clients, I think, in the area of nuance. It's kind of nuance that we can do. But sometimes just these little tweaks in, like you were saying, like in how you would set a boundary or how you would ask for a need or how you would express something that you wanted and invite a man into his highest and best self. Some of these things are kind of nuanced, and yet they can make such an enormous difference in the results and the experience that a woman has in dating. So it's not like we have to be perfect, and it's not like most people are doing everything wrong, but it is
fine-tuning, refining.
It's fine-tuning.
Yes.
And I know you're a musician, Cami, and so like it's like, you know, when you're gonna play in a concert, or when you're going to, you know, do a performance, you're going to practice and you're going to tune up your instrument and you're
That's
going to
right.
refine things. And yet sometimes we expect that relationship skills are just going to be, you know, somehow, you know,
Inherent. Yeah.
yeah, distilled somehow, you know, through osmosis. It's like, would you expect to know how to speak Mandarin Chinese just through
That's
osmosis,
right.
right?
Yeah. If you never learned, exactly.
So I think what's encouraging is that these are learnable skills. If there is an area that you're thinking, you know what, I could, you know, I need a little upgrade or a little tweak in this area, that there's hope. So I think that's very hopeful.
Absolutely. Yes. And next one, and you mentioned fantasy before. And this one is allowing an ex to continue to what I'm going to call occupy real estate in your mind, heart, and body for months and years. And sometimes what I see in this is fantasy, that it's kind of, you know, the what if, or maybe one day, or well, you know, that was my one chance at love. That was the love of my life. And I don't know if I'll ever have that kind of love again. Or the fear that, well, I don't want to ever be hurt like that again. So I just am swearing off love altogether. Either way, that person's occupying the real estate in your mind, heart, and body, and taking up valuable time. And so, you know, let's evict the ex and create spaciousness for new partnership in your life. Grieve if you need to. Face fears if you need to, but commit to living in reality, the truth of who you are, regardless of what happened in a painful past relationship or disappointing relationship. Commit to honoring your deepest desires for love, but with a partner who is a match for that vision that we mentioned before. And, you know, just because you had a disappointment in the past, or things ended the way that they did, that was one person. It doesn't equal your future. You know, there are new potential people just around the corner, but you commit to showing up every day. We talked about that radiant woman. That radiant woman has released the people from the real estate in her brain, body, and heart. I believe in the modern day fairy tale with a partner who's a match for your vision, and that means living in reality and letting go of the fantasy of the past that keeps us stuck.
Yeah, evicting the ex. I love that. Evicting the ex. And there's a lot of different ways sometimes that we have to do that, whether it's still an attachment, whether it's a fantasy that he's going to come back or something could be different, whether it's still holding on to resentment or holding on to anger or pain. You know, that can be a way that we're still attached to the ex. We're still holding on to anger, whether not forgiving ourselves for not seeing that the ex was a big jerk if he was, you know, that kind of thing. There's a lot of different ways we can still be hanging on to the ex without even realizing that we're hanging on to the ex.
Absolutely.
And yet, you know, I really believe that if you're stuck in any area of life, doing some excavation, whether it be in your physical space or whether it be in your heart and mind, can be a really great way, because we know nature abhors a vacuum. And when you start excavating, it's very likely that something is going to come in to that. But you get to be in choice about what you allow to come into that space. That's the key, right?
That's right. Yes. Yeah. And for anybody who hears that and goes, oh, but yeah, the reason I haven't been dating because I don't want to, I keep attracting those kinds of guys and I don't want to attract them. Well, as we've just been saying, if you did attract someone who has qualities like that, you know what? You can repel them. You can make new choices. It doesn't mean anything about you. It just means a person came in, you do the assessment, you look at your inner GPS, you're that radiant woman, you're honoring your vision, you go, oh, no, thank you, not a match, next. And that's practicing those new skills. So yes, we're going to stay in the hope and possibility and stay out of fantasy.
Yeah, beautiful.
And this ties us into number 9, which is let's leave behind the not prioritizing dating and creating possibilities for love in your life. There can be so many excuses. I'm too busy. I don't like online dating. Now with everything going on, COVID, it's not a good time to date. I will tell you something that is completely not true. This is a great time to date. It might look a little different. You might have more time getting to know someone on Zoom or on the phone. You might go and have something outside, like a coffee or something, and you're in masks. Not a reason to not date and prioritize. So for 2021, massive action. Gather support from your friends, from family, from a coach. Take a class if you need to about dating. Get creative. Get your profile together. Take some beautiful photos and step outside of your comfort zone and take some risks and try things that might feel scary or anxiety provoking. I don't believe in all of these kind of rules. I believe you can take a risk and be the one. If you have a nice thing going with someone, you're talking online but you haven't gotten off the texting thing, suggest, hey, I'm free Friday at 5. Would you like to get on a phone call? Take that little risk, step outside of your comfort zone a little bit, or ask a friend if there's someone you're interested in that through a friend. Hey, is he single? Would you consider maybe a fix up? Build the confidence that you can create possibilities and take action. And I have a really good friend, and she always says, you know what? It only takes one. So you could be talking to a lot of people and think, oh, well, this one's not a match and that one's not a match. You know what? It only takes one. But the only way you're going to meet that one is if you take that massive action and continue to draw to yourself possibilities for a partner. I'm loving, I want to hear what you have to say on this one.
Well, I do agree with you. I think it is actually a really good time for a couple of reasons. I think for a lot of people, both men and women, they've realized how important and significant it would be for them, how meaningful it would be to have partnership during this pandemic time. I was sharing, I think with another interview, that I've spoken with men. I work with women, but I've spoken with men this year, single men, who have shared with me. I spoke with a doctor earlier this year, and he said, I've been so caught up in my career and traveling. And he's like, now that things are not, available to me in terms of the travel and things like that, he said, I've really recognized how really lonely I am, and
I've heard that as well.
Yeah. And how
I've been.
Yeah. And he said, I realize I've been running away from that feeling. That's what he said to me. Now, I thought that was pretty insightful for a man to say that and share that with me. And so I think, first of all, a lot of people have recognized how important and significant and meaningful it could be for them. And also, I think there's a bit of an advantage to getting to know people in this slower way, because one of the traps we talked about was getting involved really fast physically and going with the chemistry. And this almost like forces you to slow things down and have a little bit more of a getting to know you process before most people are comfortable or feel safe being with someone physically. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's advantageous, because then you get to know kind of the heart and character of someone before you're involved with them physically or sexually.
Yeah. And then you get to see if someone's not okay with that. Well, that's really good information to have. And like we said, you only need one. So you can there are people out there who are enjoying having phone calls, having Zoom dates, and spending more. It's like a courtship in a different way. So yes, I agree with
you know what else, Cami? I think this pandemic can be just another way to kind of hide, or another excuse in some ways. It's like before it was, well, I'm too busy with work, or I'm too busy with this or whatever. And I know when I was single, there were times that I was so busy. And I think sometimes I was intentionally busy, because it helped me to not necessarily feel the discomfort of feeling that loneliness or that deep desire that I really had for partnership. And so, we're very creative as human beings. We can come up with all kinds of reasons as to why this is the wrong time, right?
That's right.
No matter pandemic or any other time, we can create all kinds of reasons why it's the wrong time. But if this is something you want, this is not a dress rehearsal. This is real life. And you don't get any of your lifetime back. Each day, each year is precious. And I think as we get older, we start recognizing that even more. And if this is really something you want in your life, then making time for it, making a priority, I think is really important.
Yes. And like everything else, if you need support around that, then gather the support that you're needing to help yourself to start to do it and to make any tweaks or anything that you're needing, like writing a profile or taking pictures. Just get the help that you're needing so that you can start to really get out there. So here we are, finally, drum roll, number 10. Believing that the only way that you will experience joy and fulfillment in your life is with a partner, and putting aspects of your life on hold because you're waiting for the one. So in 2021, fill up your tank now. Your fulfillment and your joy is number one. And I believe that gratitude, the practice of gratitude, is really helpful here. And I think a lot of people have been doing this. I feel like we're kind of in a simpler time over the last many months when certain things have fallen away. And in order to be with everything going on in a way that we feel okay, really being grateful for what we have, grateful for our friends and for our loved ones and for purpose, and grateful for wonderful meals and walks and a beautiful sky, whatever the things are, but being really grateful and allowing yourself to have the things and do the things in your life that fill your tank up. So you're fulfilled now, regardless of whether you have a partner or not in this very moment. And really, really important to not put things on hold or put it off because you think, well, I can't do that because I don't have a partner. That would be something I'd do with a partner. No. Do it now. Bring the things into your life that are going to bring you that joy. Expanding joy in 2021 so that you can, and that ties into the radiance as well, I think, too. A woman living a radiant life is really filling up her own tank and creating and enjoying and cultivating the things that bring her joy in her life. So,
absolutely.
Any thoughts here, Michelle?
Well, one thought that came to my mind was exactly what you said, that I think it ties in really well with radiance, because as I have interviewed men, I have done these man panel events the last several years. And as I've interviewed many, many men, sometimes on camera or sometimes after our interviews, and I've had little conversations with them, if they're in a partnership, relationship, or marriage, I'll often ask them, what was it about your now wife or girlfriend or partner that really drew you to her? And so often they'll say things like, she was so lit up and so happy in her life, or she was so passionate about some of the things that she was doing, or I was just really attracted to how excited she was about certain things going on in her life. So when you're living that rich, full life without hiding behind the being busy, which is what we talked about before, and being centered in joy and gratitude and pursuing those things that really do light you up from within. I mean, who doesn't like to be around someone, even if you don't know much about what they're so passionate about, when they're sharing and they're really excited about something and really passionate about something? Don't you think that's incredibly attractive?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I like what you just said about that they said, well, she was really lit up about her life. That's so infectious because it's not, the other way is like a waiting, well, I'm waiting for you, for something or someone to make my life fabulous or to light up my life. Like, no, you're lighting up your own life.
Right.
And then that's so infectious. I want some of what she has.
Right.
Right.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And it's like also, another thing, this is kind of funny that a couple of men have said to me, they're like, look, we want to make the woman that we're with happy.
Yes.
And they said, here's the secret though. If she's already happy, our job is like pretty much done. It's like, they're like, this is going to be fun and this is going to be easy because she's already happy.
Yes. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just kind of a fun way to look at it. And who doesn't want to be on the happy train?
Yeah. Right.
That looks a lot more fun than someone who's just kind of waiting and sad and glum and disappointed and bitter. And, unfortunately, life can deal us some tough blows. I think it's hard to make it to a certain age and station in life without having had some true disappointments, painful experiences, and things happen. But that comes back to the healing and some of these other things that we can do to support ourselves so that we're really in a place to receive someone who also can show up in a way where they're healthy. That doesn't mean perfect. That doesn't mean we don't have any nicks or dents or bruises, but it means that we're on a journey, on a positive track in our lives.
Yes. Yes. And I think that it's something that you can take action on immediately. We all have things that we're doing, to-do lists, got to do the bills, have to do this thing. Here's stuff I need to do in the house. Here's this and that's this. I challenge everybody to make a new category with all your to-dos that's called joy, and see what you can put under there. It can be something really simple, like there's a special tea that I love, and I'm going to make it in my glass teapot, and I'm going to sit and enjoy a cup of tea. It could be simple. It could be an aspirational kind of thing in the future, something that you want to save up for to experience later. But start to see what happens when you have a category joy. And what calls to you, because sometimes we tend to put those things off to the side because we don't think they're important, but it's just as important as all those other things that you're putting together. So with that, I'll end there.
Absolutely. Well, these were great. And I think these are really, really good things to leave behind in 2020 so that you can find the one in 21. And love that you gave us the antidotes too.
Yes. Yeah. And that was so much fun discussing that with you. Thank you again for giving me the opportunity to think about all that and to share it with you and your listeners.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I really loved our conversation. It was really, really fun to dance through all of that with you. And boy, we were singing from the same choir book tonight. I just felt like, oh yeah, this is it. This is good stuff. And to everybody watching, we're wishing you a happy new year and wishing you much joy and health and happiness in 2021. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.